Good evening, everyone. This is Marty, K0MLG. I am the net control for the TechNet tonight. Bob is unavailable at the moment, so I'm going to run it. I'm located near Wellington. This is Marty, K0MLG. 1800 kind of snuck up on me. I was over on the other band, Yik Yak. And anyway, the purpose of the TechNet is to answer any questions you may have or clarify anything and everything. Doesn't always have to be electronics, I don't suppose. Is there any priority traffic before we start the net? One thing I'd like to announce first is probably going to be looking for somebody else to run this week's the first week of the month net. And also, if anybody ever wants to run the net after I've started it, I don't know how the other guys do it, but with me, if you want to take over the net after I've started it, you just let me know and get some practice running nets. It would be very good for a lot of people to be able to run a net and direct traffic and participate in the nets that way. Well, with that said, I'm going to go ahead. Hold on, I'm going to turn the phone down so I'm not getting bothered. I'm going to go ahead and start taking check-ins. Check-ins alpha through mic just go real slow, and we'll try to keep the doubles to a minimum. And let's kick it off. K0MLG is taking check-ins alpha through mic.
Well, nobody got on there. I'll do it. AE0KO, Alpha Echo 0 Kilo Oscar, Brad Mobile, headed to Fort Collins.
This is
Yo, Tim in Windsor.
Doc and Beers.
All right, hold on. There was three of you. Tim, WW8L. Doc, I don't have your call sign memorized, so I'll have you go, and then right after him there was three of you that tripled. Go ahead, Doc, and then the other station go.
Kilo Foxtrot 0, Golf, Quebec, India.
And the third one was AE0KO, Alpha Echo 0 Kilo Oscar, Brad Mobile, headed to Fort Collins.
No, I got you in there. There was no doubles or triples or anything, so I forgot to say when we check in, try to use your call sign, and then once again with your phonetics, kilowatt 0 Mike Lima Golf, and your name and location. And go ahead, tell me if you're getting rain. We just had a little bit of a shower come through southeast of Wellington, so the station that was tripled with Doc and Tim, go again.
This is N0EMP, November 0 Echo Mike Papa, with Debbie, K0DBE, Kilo 0 Delta Bravo Echo. And we just had the rain start here 20 minutes ago, light rain. Really cool and really cooling down nicely. And I have two items tonight.
Okay, well, hold up there. That was the triple, Greg. All right, we got you in there. Debbie, Greg, Doc, Tim, and Brad. Any other check-ins for tonight's net? Go ahead.
This is KE4 ALG, Kilo Echo 4, Alpha Lima Golf, Todd at Fort Collins.
November 0 Kilowatt, Golf, United, and 0 KGU, Don in Loveland. Just started raining about 10 minutes ago.
KF0GQH, Kilo Foxtrot 0 Golf, Quebec Hotel, with KF0LAU, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Lima Alpha Uniform, Kent and Lorraine in Wellington, and it's raining just a tad.
Okay, well, hold up there. Got you in there, Kent and Lorraine, and Don and Todd. Any other check-ins for tonight's TechNet? Go ahead.
This is KM6VAY, Kilo Mike 6, Victor Alpha Yankee. Steve down in Sedalia, about 25 miles south of Denver. Yeah, same thing with the rain as you guys, but I just got a halo of blue sky above me, double rainbow. Hooked up the antenna real quick, and I'm back off the HT. I'm on my base. I'm on my base station. Nice.
It still surprises me how well you get up here, Steve. K0MLG, Marty, I am net control for tonight's TechNet. Any other check-ins tonight? Go ahead.
This is Kilo Zero Hotel Alpha Kilo K0HAK. Sorry, I'm busy cooking right now. Can't really look at the weather or give a report, but it did rain a little while ago.
WD0DCG, Whiskey Bravo Zero, Uniform Charlie Golf, Jeff in Boulder, and a little sprinkle about an hour ago, nothing now.
All right, hold up there. Got you in there, Brian. You were doubled with Jeff, but I got you. Jeff, got you in there. And Dave, got you in there. Who else wants to check in for tonight's TechNet? Go ahead.
This is K5SGC, Kilo 5 Sierra Golf Charlie. Dave in Fort Collins, and it's sprinkled here a little bit.
This is Kilo Bravo Zero Yankee Delta November KB0YBN Eric, Mobile Pinewood Lake, and just drove out of the rain a couple of minutes ago after about 15 minutes of it.
This is AE3TV, Alpha Echo 3, Tango Bravo, Tom in Wellington. A little bit of sprinkled as we speak.
All right, hold up there. We got you in there, Tom, and Eric, and Dave. Anybody else for tonight's TechNet? Go ahead.
This is K0AZA, Kilo Zero Alpha Zulu Alpha, Ron in Southwest Fort Collins. It's kind of spitting here, not really raining.
This is AE0CF Alpha Echo Zero, Charlie Foxtrot, Ben, Fort Collins. It's just a little bit sprinkling here.
All right, got you in there, Ben and Ron. Anybody else for tonight's TechNet? Go ahead. All right, hearing none. I really don't have much to talk about. I was thinking about what I was going to do in a couple of weeks, but I do have a little bit of a note here, and I don't think I brought this up, but maybe I have. But if I did, it bears repeating. When I'm, or whoever's doing net, or whatever net you're listening to, get you out a pen and paper and start taking check-ins. Start writing down all the information that I just wrote down. I got everybody's call sign, their name, where they are, and whoever, the ones that said that they have rain, I got, well, it light rain, sprinkles, spitting, whatever. That's something you guys and gals can do to practice, so when you do want to run a net, you've kind of got an idea. It just comes naturally. The other thing, and we're kind of getting out of weather season, but we're going into another weather pattern where we really need to make sure we check our equipment monthly. All your radios, your batteries, your HDs, your antennas, your connections on your mobile equipment. If you got a problem on your antenna at home, you're going to probably see that. You'll start noticing performance issues, but those mobile applications, those antenna connections and mounts, they do come loose. And if you're not using a pair of pliers on your 259 or in connectors, you probably better start doing it, because they'll wiggle loose right quick like. That's all I really have. Any other any comments on these two topics? Go ahead.
KE4ALG with a question.
Go ahead, Todd.
So I'm currently planning a mobile installation for VHF, UHF antenna on my Land Rover. And my first sort of issue is I want to pass the coax obviously through the firewall or floorboard. And I've decided the best way to do that is with a bulkhead connector. And my question really is about waterproofing. PL259s and SO239 connections are not known to be waterproof. I've read some different opinions about end connectors that because they have a rubber gasket, perhaps they're more waterproof. But I'm curious to know how we waterproof the threads or waterproof the connections. I do plan to use heat sink or heat shrinking material around the cable connector assembly. But my real question is about waterproofing bulkhead connectors, and also I'm going to need some help with soldering. So someone in the club could help maybe. So KE4ALG.
Well, my first opinion of this, and I wouldn't use a bulkhead fitting in my firewall. That's an awful big hole, and it's going to take two people, one on the inside, one on the outside. It's just more room for failure. I wouldn't do that. I think why you're doing this because it sounds like you're not familiar with soldering. I'd rather see you put a smaller diameter hole, seal that up with some silicone, and terminate the end. Well, I'm thinking about me. I built brackets and stuff, so I terminate stuff outside. But if you're buying well, let me back up. What mount are you going to use to mount the antenna?
We are getting rain here and some lightning. I'm in North Fort Collins, by the way. I forgot to say that on the check-in. But yes, it's an unusual installation. The truck has the typical mounts, trunk mounts, and things like that will not work because of the style of the body panels. But I have a brush bar on the front, pretty common in off-road vehicles in Australia and places like that, 1.5 inch diameter. So I'm going to be using a clamp that'll mount to the brush bar. And then there'll be an NMO style mount that will mount for the antenna, of course, for the cable assembly, KE4ALG. Okay, so it's got the cable assembly. I can see why now you want to use the bulkhead fitting, so, or you could cut that cable assembly, you could cut that off and then put a new end on, then you wouldn't have to put that big of a hole. But to answer your question, there's a coax sealing tape, and you put that around there, and it should be pretty watertight. Anybody have any other suggestions?
EMP.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I think you said you're going to do a VHF, UHF install. For UHF, you don't want to use SO239, PL259 if you don't have to. Your radio itself may have a SO239 on the back, so at that point you'll need one. But if you're going to be splicing in bulkhead connectors and things, you want to stay within connectors. I don't know if you already got the antenna mount, but it's possible to get cabled antenna mounts that have an SMA connector on the end of the cable. That way you can pass that SMA through a small hole and then patch it with a grommet and sealant, and then at the radio use an adapter SMA to whatever you need, and 0 EMP.
K0MLG Marty at control for this week's TechNet. Well, that's a good idea, an SMA connector. Todd, if you're not familiar, well, you probably got an HT with an SMA with an antenna. You take the antenna off, that's what an SMA is. So, well, not on a Baofeng, that's something else. I don't know. Yaesu's and those brand, Yaesu, Icon, that kind of stuff, they're using SMA. That's a really good idea. And then just order an SMA to, I imagine, like Greg said, your radio probably has a UHF connector on it. So those are simple. Amazon, a couple bucks, and you're at your house. That would probably be about the easiest thing to do. No soldering, just adapters. Small hole in the firewall, seal it up with a grommet and some adhesive sealant, and you're good to go.
Yes, I have not purchased anything yet, although I did buy a bulkhead connector. But I'm looking at all those options. I had not looked at an SMA. The cable assembly I was going to get was Bolt Larson NMO. very difficult to find the 3/8" anybody thick mounts to mount on this bracket that'll mount to my brush bar, but I may have located a commercial supplier that'll sell one. It does not come with a connector on the end, so I'd have to solder one. And I had considered just passing the cable and using a grommet, or I forget the other name for it, but a rubber seal that'll prevent the friction from going through the cable. So I'm just thinking through all the options now and exploring. It sounds like I need to avoid, it is going to be a dual band antenna, so it sounds like I do need to avoid TL259, so maybe I'll just hang on to that for now and look at other options. KU4ALG.
Okay. You said you're having a hard time finding a bracket that will go to that 1.5" bar, huh?
Yes, one option was to try and find someone in the club maybe, or someone that could weld a flat panel or flat piece of steel to the roll, to the brush bar. But that looked like it was going to be something I have to find, an unknown. So I was able to find some folks that make clamps for brush bars, for radio mounts for folks that race these off-road vehicles out in the Southwest. And they make clamps of various sizes for roll cages and things like that to mount race radios on. And those mounts are typically 3/8". Take a 3/8" AMO, which I guess is popular in the land LMR market. KE4ALG.
Okay, well, while Greg's going on about his stuff, I'll go look. I bought a bracket for my John Deere side-by-side to mount a 4-foot lighted, it's a light stick with a flag on the top. And that would have to be drilled out. But I do believe that would work, so I'll get that info here in a little bit. This is KZRMLG. Marty, TechNet NCS tonight. Anybody have any other opinions on this for Todd before we move on? All right, hearing none. Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks, Marty. I've got a couple items. The first one is this week is the Loveland Perkins lunch, ham radio lunch. Not an NCARC thing. It's just anyone that wants to show up. You don't even have to be a licensed amateur radio operator. Mark used to call it TechNet with food or TechNet with lunch. And it is at the Perkins on West Eisenhower in Loveland, 11:30 this Wednesday. Second topic, after last year's Equinox, I believe was the marathon, that there were a lot of communication problems. That's when I started testing NVIS. So we went into October, November, December, testing NVIS in the canyons, and then this year we've deployed it a few times now, or attempted to deploy it for event communications in the canyons, Poudre Canyon and Wrist, and interconnecting Stove Prairie. Let me reset this. Between a year now of, first of all, testing it and then trying to actually deploy it, I've come to a couple conclusions. The first one is that for emergency communication in the canyons, I can always get out and find someone I can talk to. If anyone's not familiar with this, this is HF with horizontal antennas and relatively low to the ground. Let me reset. And depending on the time of day or night and what the ionosphere is doing, we're talking about 80, 60, or 40 meters. given as so you're bouncing off the ionosphere pretty much straight up and straight back down into a circle. Like I said, I can always contact someone. Yeah, so if there was an emergency and I needed to communicate out, I could. That someone might be in Grand Junction, or they might be in Nebraska or Kansas, but I can get out. Let me reset again. For net operations, the problem has been that because we only have those 3 bands to use, what's happening is people, especially on 80 and 40 meters, are popping up all over the Midwest and starting their own nets that they do every day or every Saturday or whatever they do. And they're just dropping right on top of us. And maybe they can hear us, maybe they can't. But whenever we find a working frequency for NVIS for an event, we end up getting pushed off of it, and then we have to try to coordinate with now the communication a different frequency, and then the same thing happens. Someone pops up there. So it's proven useful for emergency calling out for help or communicating out of a canyon, but it's been a lot less useful on event support communications. Any questions on that and 0EMP?
The only thing I could think of, Greg, is the 991A, the way I understand it, has system fusion, even on HF. Well, this would require everybody to have a 991A, and I don't expect people to go out and buy a radio just for that. But that would be one solution. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty hard. It's hard to hog up the airwaves for 2 or 3 hours when you may be stepping on somebody's established net that's been going on for decades, and that way, you know, I mean, gentleman's agreement. You can look at it 2 ways. You have the frequency first. They have to wait till we're done, or they've been doing it for decades. We have to move.
Yeah, and the problem with that is, you know, when we're doing event support, we're not going to be constantly talking on the HF channel. It's going to be if it might be silent for 20, 30 minutes. And at times, some net in Kansas that's been going on for 40 years will start up, and they won't hear us talking, and they'll just start right in. So what I'm going to try doing, I started getting some inkling there would be problems here earlier this summer, so I've been doing more research, and I want to try and see how 6-meter single sideband with vertical whip antennas on vehicles works down the canyon. And that's another issue is with the HF, you can't be mobile. You stop and set up. It's a pretty quick antenna to set up, but you still have to stop somewhere and set up a wire antenna, and then you're not mobile anymore. So that's another drawback. So we'll be testing this fall mobile vertical whips on 6 meters in the canyon on single sideband, and we'll see if we get anywhere with that. The advantage of that is, other than the rare opening, we're not going to be having to conflict with people in other states on 6 meters. It's regional, and especially if we're in the canyon, we're not going to have conflict. And we got 4 megahertz of bandwidth to play with there, so we'll be able to find, and then the whole thing's open to technician class as well. So if 6 meters works, it'll be a lot more flexible for us in 0EMP.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do 6 meters for years, and it just, I can't find. Well, I thought I had a location a mile and a half east of me, but the hams XYL said absolutely there will be no antennas. Okay. Well, I don't know anybody else on the ridge to have. Well, for those that don't know, 6 meters, you have to have huge duplexers, or you have to have a lot of distance in between the receive antenna and the transmit antenna, which where I live, we could do if I knew some people to do it. But James has an idea for a duplexer, and he's just so busy. We haven't done it. So, Greg, I don't know. Sounds like maybe you've been talking with James a little bit. I would definitely be interested, and I can do Invis mobile, so can Bob. But we both have spent a little bit of money on tuners and not so much on antennas. But I'd take a 102-inch whip and fold it back. And matter of fact, last Sunday I was listening to the Aries TechNet, not the Aries TechNet, the Aries Net. That's at 0800 on 3.810 here out here on my place. So anyway. Yep, you can do mobile Invis. You just got to spend a little more money. But I do like the 6 meter thing. Dave and I talked a couple weeks ago. Greg, I know you were testing with him, and he was really surprised. He was an S10 down here from his radio up there on his place. So I think 6 meter in the canyon would work really, really well.
Yeah, my testing I'm going to do this fall, it won't be FM and repeaters. It'll be simplex, and it'll be on sideband. So that's what I'll be trying.
Yeah. Well, James has a 6 meter repeater he wants to do something with anyway, so whether it's used for events or not, one of these days it'll happen. And I'll be more than happy to go play either from home or up in the canyon or wherever, either mobile or base station when you get ready to do that. I'm sure there's some other people that'd be pretty interested in that.
Yeah, sorry, it sounds good. Well, those are the two items I had, Marty. Unless anyone else has any more question on the 6 meter business or on Invis and 0 EMP.
Any questions on the 6 meter testing or the Invis stuff? Any questions or comments about anything?
Kilo Alpha 6, Echo Tango Echo.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Marty, might as well check me into the net and just want to do a quick announcement reminder for everyone that this coming Saturday, October 7th, is the Colorado Aries Annual Simulated Emergency Training, or SET. We will be using multiple repeaters up and down the Front Range, including DMR network from Rocky Mountain Ham. So just keep that in mind. I know up here our primary repeaters that we'll be using are both horse-tooth repeaters and possibly some other ones depending on what the injects are for the training scenario. But we will keep in mind and to keep some repeaters available for general use for people. Just keep that in mind when you go to jump on a repeater, to please listen for a few minutes before you start transmitting, calling for someone, as there will be a live training scenario occurring in K6ET.
Yep, good information. Is HF going to be used for that at all?
That I am not 100% sure on. I know there's been talk about possibly doing some Invis on 60 meter, but they're unsure of how many locations have the capability, so that's still to be seen.
Well, but it's up and down the Front Range. You could use 20 meters vertical. I was just wondering because if I knew of a frequency, I could be monitoring this stuff on my way up to Mitchell.
Yeah, well, you're an Aries number, so as soon as they give out the 205, the ICS 205 comms plan for state level, as soon as they give that out this week, that'll be forwarded to Aries members, which will list HF frequencies if they are going to be used. So they might have them available within the next couple days.
All right, cool beans. Well, thanks for the info. Any late check-ins or questions or comments for tonight's TechNet? Go ahead.
Yeah, AM6, VAY. Just a really quick question. We got a couple radio telephone guys on our club. Is anybody going to monitor the upcoming emergency broadcast system test? I believe it's between 162.4 and 162.550. TechNet.
Well, hold on just a second there, Steve. There was a guy checking in. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a real quick question. It's kind of trivial. I'm going to try to monitor the upcoming emergency system broadcast test. I believe it's, on the 4th? Anyway, it's between 162.5 and 162.4 and 162.550. And I just was wondering if any of the radio telephone guys had any suggestions. I'm scared to death it's going to be strong as like an FM radio signal, and I better have my attenuator on and be really careful. Anyway, I just wanted a real quick question. Otherwise, thanks.
All right. Before we answer that, I don't know maybe somebody knows the answer, but there was somebody else trying to check in. That person checking in, go ahead. Evidently not. I know I heard double traffic. A 1624, 1625, isn't that where the weather radios are at?
As far as I know, I'm Google educated. My ICOM 9700 base station does not allow me to get that station, but my ID51 does. I was just going to play around.
YDM.
Yeah, Steve, those are 1624 to 162550. There's 7 specific frequencies for the weather band. So that's where you're hearing that. So whatever weather radio, whatever frequency you can hear, that's not going to be any strong. Those are low-powered stations. Those things are only doing a few watts. They're just not very high-powered at all. It's pretty. They need to update their antiquated equipment. For half the summer, most of the weather radios down here were down. They couldn't get them powered. Well, they were down because of Verizon. Verizon couldn't fix their connection, so it was. They don't have any redundancy at all. If Verizon is down, weather radios don't work. So the weather service definitely needs to up their game. Go ahead, Eric.
I largely wanted to say exactly what you just said. Yeah. 162.400 is the start of the weather band. There's 7 channels. 162.550 is the end of the weather broadcast band. There are other frequencies that are in use for two-way radio. A weather alert radio might sound, if they're using those bands for testing, they might send out some sort of test tone on there. But also, I'm not sure about the power that you said, but it's kind of irrelevant. I thought that 162.475, which is the one I get, was in fact a 300-watt transmitter. I do know they have superb hardline that is used for it because we got the spool end from one of them. And it was just really, really nice 50-ohm coax. Give you a watt again, back to that.
Okay. Well, maybe they do have a little more power, but boy, they sure are weak for 300 watts. I only get 2 of them out here. I'm on a pretty good size hill, so anyway, I guess it's really irrelevant. But I'm looking on the web here, and I'm not seeing where it's going to be on weather radio. It's integrated public alert and warning system, IPAWS, IPAWS, and in case of severe weather or other significant events, backed up testing on October 11th. Cell phones, wireless devices, radios, and TVs. So, evidently, it doesn't say anything about weather radio, just so broadcast radio is what they're talking about. But I guess if anybody has any more info on that, I'm not seeing where it's going to be on weather radio frequencies.
Comment?
Go ahead.
Just real quick, guys, I'll get out of here. The emergency alert system, the EAS alert system that's going to happen in a couple days, guys. National Warning System in the United States designed to allow via public cable, satellite, or broadcast television. And both AM, FM, and satellite radio. Sorry, I'm punching up the frequencies for satellite radio. Anyway, I'm just playing with it, guys. Thanks for the answer all the questions. Thank you very much. I'll report back next week.
Hey, well, there you go. You got some homework. Any other comments or questions? Boy, it really is black over Wellington. We got lightning and rain. It's a nice evening. Any other comments? All right, everybody, thanks for checking in. It's been fun, and it's been real, and it's been real fun. And I hope to see you or hear from you next time I do this. Could be next week, who knows? But we appreciate everybody for checking in and keeping the hobby alive. This is K0MLG, Marty, closing the net and returning the repeater to normal use.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.